Hey, I'm Quincy and I'm a radio personality, but just like you, I'm always wanting to make better health choices for myself and of course for my family. Now that's why I've teamed up with my friend Dr. Dean Tindal and the fine folks of New Life Naturopathic, the creators of new-lifeweightloss.com, to bring you a podcast focused on giving you the information you need to make the best health decisions for you and your family. Now, that's going to be without sway from what mainstream medicine has become. Now, this podcast, Pursuit of New Life, we're going to release one each Friday. And we're going to focus on debunking the mainstream medicine myths now associated with naturopathic, holistic medicine, while giving you clear insight into ways you can make your health a lifestyle and not a jump from fad diet to fad diet. Experts in the fields of biochemistry, chiropractic, physiology, women's health, and much more will weigh in on a range of topics, all designed to open your eyes, expand your knowledge, and bring you to new life. Now be sure to subscribe to Pursuit of New Life on all the podcast platforms, and also follow us on YouTube at newlifenaturopathic.com, and be joining us every Friday for Pursuit of New Life.
Thanks for joining us for another episode. We're so glad that you're on this journey with us. Remember to tell your friends to subscribe to the podcast, Pursuit of New Life, anywhere that they get podcasts, as well as going to New Life Naturopathic on YouTube. Of course, that's where you get all the extra fun of actually being able to see us and any graphics or graphs or any of that kind of stuff that we add to the program. newlifenaturopathic.com, great resource for you, as well as new-lifeweightloss.com. You'll hear us talk about that as well. So I'm going to bring in Dr. Dean Tindal and his team, and we are excited to see where else we get to learn about some things. You know, we talked about a tough topic last week, and to build on that, one of the big things that gets people when they're trying to make this lifestyle journey change was fear, and we talked about that at length. And now the next big one, I guess, for some people can be a speed bump, but others it can be an actual hurdle, and that's self-sabotage. And that's one that I think a lot of people may not think to articulate what it actually is that's keeping them from this decision to choose to pursue new life and to choose a lifestyle change. So let's talk about that a little bit today, and we'll start with Dr. Tindal.
Hey, Quincy, how you guys doing today? So one of the, we talked about fear last time. So one of the other aspects that we have with patients that we have to deal with, because a lot of nutrition stuff, it's, mental, physical, emotional, and chemical. And one of the things that we find with patients that keeps them from seeking care or following through with care, from being successful is a concept of self-sabotage. We all do it to some degree or another. So what we're going to kind of talk about a little bit, and we got a graphic here that we're going to kind of go through the steps of self-sabotage. Try to make it real simplistic. And we're going to keep the conversation more towards health and nutrition, but this actually happens to people in all aspects of life. It can happen in your relationships, your work, anything that you want to try to pursue or make yourself better. But we're going to kind of stay in the realm of nutrition and being successful with following programs, taking care of yourself, becoming healthier. So kind of start, this is, like I said, a simple kind of a graphic here. So if you look at the far left, it says your current state. You're either overweight, you have anxiety issues, I want to get healthier, and you're starting to look, you desire change. So you start to kind of look out on the internet or through the friends, or you're talking to people and you're like, oh, what do I need to do? And you start to kind of, I know I need to change because I'm overweight. I don't like myself. I don't like where I'm at. So you start to, search for these different things. And then what happens, you kind of find something you want to do. And a lot of times it's, information you get through your friends or some on the internet or whatever. So what happens, the next step you actively start to change. I set a goal, like I want to lose weight, or, and we're going to talk about lose weight. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to try to get healthier. So that's your goal. So what happens, you start down that process and you start to make those changes and you're going through the process. And then what happens with people is they start to see success. And they see results with the change that's happening with them. And so what happens is it's subconsciously, and usually it's just subconsciously, you feel uncomfortable with the change in your body. You're looking at yourself and you go, well, man, I've lost weight. I don't feel, you're out of your, basically what we say to a lot of people, you're out of your comfort zone. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happens then is you subconsciously, when we kind of get to the other box, like we start to self-sabotage consciously or subconsciously. So what happens to ourselves, and the number one way to self-sabotage is that you actually do nothing. So how we see with patients is they like, well, I'm not going to follow the eating program anymore, or, it's too complicated, or, they start making excuses. And then the other thing they do, they stop taking the supplements, or they stop following up with their appointments. So what they do is, or like I said, they just stop doing stuff. And what happens is they fail.
Yeah.
And then when you fail, you kind of validate where you're at. Like, oh man, I knew I couldn't do it. This is too hard. I'm not strong enough to do that. And you start to kind of shame yourself. I'm meant to be overweight. Must be genetics. So you come up with these excuses. So what you're trying to do is you try to you're returning back to the familiar place that you used to. Kind of a thing I tell patients is, it's kind of like almost like spousal abuse. You kind of wonder, like, why does that husband or wife stay with the other spouse who are abusing them, even though it's a terrible place that they're at? Why do they stay there? Well, this is kind of the reason, because that state that they're in is very familiar with them, and it gets back to that thing. They don't like change. They fear change. And so what happens, you want to start to understand that there's maybe some unresolved issues like trauma, self-esteem issues, things that happened to you as a kid, things that parents say to you, some that people say to you. And what happens is you have to sometimes delve into the psychological aspect of what are these unresolved issues, and we delve into that sometimes with our patients.
Yeah. And like you said, this can be across the board. We have a little bit different focus today. So Dr. Stuber and Mariam, I guess an opportunity here for you to give some perspective on this graph. We'll start with Dr. Stuber. What do you think about this cycle of self-sabotage that we're looking at today?
Well, it's very common. Obviously, my focus is on women's health. And what I notice, there's several things. First of all, when it comes to health and weight loss, a lot of women focus on how they look or how they think they should look, and not on how they are, and not on how healthy they are. And when you lose sight of your focus, or your focus is on something based on what you've always done, it just doesn't work. You have to get out of your comfort zone to make a change. And what happens is, as soon as you get out of your comfort zone, it's uncomfortable. So people retreat back to where they were. And one thing I've noticed too is you have to make up your mind, or a lot of people don't totally make up their mind. They approach the program, or they approach their health with, well, I'm going to try, not, well, I'm going to do. And I'm going to find a leader, somebody that I can get the information what to do, what I need to do. Comparison is a big part of the problem, because I know as a middle-aged woman, I treat a lot of women that are overweight, unhealthy. And what they say to me is, well, compared to my other friends, or compared to everybody else my age, I'm doing good. And again, a life of comparison is a life of frustration. It's a life of failure. It's hard. It is, I shouldn't say hard. It's difficult to make a change when you don't quite know what you're doing, where you don't know, what to follow, what guide, and that's why we're here. So the big thing with women's health, I notice, is when it comes to eating and making the changes, the focus has to be, again, on health. Women in general are the ones that feed the family. They cook, They buy the groceries. And when a lot of times start a program, and after a certain period of time, they give up. And what I've noticed when they're in the cycle, like they'll say, oh, I've done this so many times. I've tried to lose weight, but the first time, maybe it lasts 3 months. And then they go back to their old habits. The next time it lasts maybe 2 months. And each time the cycle of self-sabotage gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So it's pretty easy to recognize self-sabotage in others by just talking to them. They've done it over and over and over to the point they just give up. They don't even want to try. So like Dr. Tindal was talking about, we have a lot of tools to assess the situation and techniques to help people change it and move forward to be healthy.
So Mariam, what would you like to add to this discussion on this cycle of self-sabotage? You have some perspective to add, or want to add anything about what people can do to overcome it?
Yeah, so I will start with, I guess, myself. I've always been a perfectionist. I've always grown up as a perfectionist, and I'm typically pretty hard on myself. A lot of people tell me that. I know I am, because if I fail or if I don't succeed at something, it really hits me hard because I really want to succeed, and I don't like failing. And of course I've talked to many people, mentors, counselors. I've read books about how good failure is, but at the end of the day, it's still not very good for your own or my own self-esteem and self-confidence when I fail. But with that being said, looking at a chart like this definitely helps me as a visual person, and I know a lot of people are visual learners, to kind of see the reasoning behind where that failure can come from and what it can also lead to. And a lot of the time, people perceive failure as like an end result. Oh, I failed one time, meaning I will probably fail again. And failing did not feel good this time, so why would I want to fail again? And just like Dr. Tindal was mentioning back to our last podcast is, it also ties in with fear of failure. And that's basically what self-sabotage is blaming yourself and basically using all the reasons of why you failed upon yourself. And a lot of people need to know that a lot of your failures don't always stem from you. A lot of the time they stem from your environment or external influences. But a lot of people use that as an excuse, and that's one of the other ways that you go wrong. And as the saying goes, you are your most critical judge a lot of the time. To me, I kind of think that that's a good thing, because I would rather have that than the other way around. I have so much self-confidence, yet the way that I'm perceived or portray myself to others is not as much so. But at the end of the day, how you feel about yourself is the most important thing. And I think it all ties together in so many ways, physically, mentally, spiritually, however you want to look at it. But it's so easy to to forget that, we're all human beings. We're all trying, don't be so hard on yourself is I think the number one thing. And when you kind of start with that mentality, it's a lot easier to deal with. Failure is not necessarily a bad thing. And that's, again, what we're here to do is we're here to coach you and guide you through that hardship, because it is hard. It is very, very difficult sometimes to take a look at yourself, and have some self-awareness. A lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to look at themselves in the mirror because either they don't like what they see or they just don't want to deal with it. It's just too much, because they're so hard on themselves and they don't believe that they can actually change, and I don't want to fail. And we're here to tell you that it is okay to fail. And we've gone through it. I suffer from self-sabotage and low self-confidence and self-esteem all the time. It's a part of life, but we got to know how to deal with it and how to manage it. You can turn it around into a good thing. If you are critical, make it in a realistic way. Don't just say, okay, I'm looking at these pictures of these magazines, or these pictures of people in these magazines, and they're all ripped or they're all like skin and bones, and here I am, and I gained a few pounds in college, at freshman 15, but it was more than 15 at the time, and it was difficult to lose, especially because I was going through a lot of stress during college, which didn't help. And so, you got to just remember, baby steps. One little goal at a time can lead to those changes that you want to see, and every little thing adds up. And that's, one of the ways that helps me to see it. And just like Dr. Stuber mentioned, we have a lot of pressure in our society, especially with media, social media, to either perform or do well or succeed. And we often compare ourselves to others. And, you gotta just remember you're an individual, and you may have been through a lot of things that are different from someone else, and so you got to know how to deal with that. And it's really not fair to compare yourself to others, because you never know what that person's been through, what resources that person had that you don't, or vice versa, and so on and so forth. So that's the one main thing. Number one thing I would say is to stop being so critical about yourself, and I think that'll definitely help in the long run. Short term too.
Speaking of ways that we can overcome these things, Dr. Tindal, what are some things that, as people make these decisions to come into a place where they're talking to people like yourselves, what are some things that they can practically take through their mind or go through the process of like, okay, I can do this. I can stop this cycle?
Well, there's several things you want to kind of keep in mind. Like, number one, Mariam and Julie hit on it, is stop comparing yourself to others. You got to also look at that, those pictures in the magazines and on TV and all this stuff. That's unreal. That's an unrealistic life. And those actors and actresses are spending thousands of dollars, and they have trainers and all these people to try to make them look that certain way. Your magazines are all airbrushed. So stop comparing yourself to others. Like when we do our program, you would call it a weight loss program, but if you actually go on there, we never actually ever ask you to weigh yourself. We don't, in my office, when we do our naturopathic work, I never ask a patient to weigh themselves. The reason being is our focus is on health. And so when you have you get healthy eating habits and patterns and things like that, your body will find its natural weight. And you'll be where you need to be. So we don't worry about a number, because the problem with a number is when you seek a number, you'll do crazy things to get to that number. You fall prey to all these different advertising schemes. The funniest one now is there's two of them that keep showing up on my social media stuff. One guy who's super ripped, probably never been overweight in his whole life, is telling people how to lose weight. Well, if you never had, again, I was 285 pounds and I've lost almost all my weight back. So I've been there and I know how to get back to there. But, when you have these guys up there, here's what you got to do. And it doesn't take this, just listen to me. Well, dude, I doubt that you ever walked the walk. And then the other one now is watch this ice hack. You can rub ice on your wrists or somewhere on your body and it makes you lose weight. I mean, it's astounding what.
Excuse me while I go to the freezer. Hold on.
I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to rub some ice on my wrist and I'm going to lose weight. And the problem with all this stuff is that because of these cycles and these things that we get into, we try to look for these really simple, easy fixes, and they just don't exist. So one of the real first things you got to do is get a mindset. Look at my goal is health. So to be healthy, what do I have to do? I have to eat healthy foods. I have to exercise. You don't have to go to the gym, but get out and walk, make life inconvenient, get out there. And then as far as some of the past trauma and things like that, we do different techniques in our office. Again, we stay simple. If it's a really complex, we have a counselor that we refer to. She's out of Louisville. She does telehealth stuff. But what a lot of we'll do is, because what we try to do is, you have to do these techniques at home. So we use like EFT, emotional freedom technique, and some cognitive behavioral therapy. Again, these are things that you can do at home. And we pair that up with forgiveness work. So like when you're accessing, the EFT helps you access your subconscious. And then we had to do some forgiveness work. Because once again, if you're dealing with emotional trauma or things like that happen to you, for example, I have a patient when she was younger, doctor, and I may have talked this before, but doctor told her she's going to be overweight to her parents. Parents didn't give her cookies and cakes, but her sister did. And so she still deals with that trauma today in her 30s. And she continues to struggle with, even, losing weight, eating healthy, because she keeps wanting to go back. And the other day she's had a list of why she couldn't do that. Yeah, a written list of why she couldn't do it and how she wanted to eat. I said, that's not negotiable, because I don't set the rules, the physiology in your body. This is what you have to do. You have to eat healthy foods. You got to do this. You have to do this if you want to be a healthy person. And she got really mad because she thought she could negotiate some other way to do it. I said, there's not. It just comes back to, these are fundamental things. And so that's kind of how we kind of work with these patients and getting them where they need to be.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Stuber, you talked earlier about it being different for women. Is overcoming it different for women as well?
Well, I believe so, because of our culture. I think women are much more likely to compare themselves to others than men are. Again, just based on 25 years of practice, I just didn't hear the same things for men, but men don't have the same struggles, and a lot of times the woman is controlling a lot of times the health care of the family. For example, I can't tell you how many times it's, well, my husband needs to come in for care. My husband needs to come in for care. My husband needs to come in for care. Or the wife drags them in for care. And also, I just think women, media, the propaganda out there, like you talked about the magazines and the television and the standards that are out there, the plastic surgeries. Now, I know it's changing, the makeup. I can just go on and on. And what I wanted to add too is, when we're talking about self-sabotage, it's all rooted in a comfort zone. What you're used to, what you're comfortable with. And people only do things for one of two reasons. One is to avoid failure or to avoid pain. And the other one is to seek pleasure. And the desire to avoid pain is 10 times greater than the desire to seek pleasure. So what happens as when you think something, that thought happens in a millisecond. To actually do something takes a little bit longer. So what happens is you might have an instant thought, but it causes a little bit of fear. And even chemically, your body just shuts down. Like, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that because I'm not comfortable. So women are different too, because they feed their family generally. Like I said, they cook. And I try to explain to them, you can't compare yourself to others, because the problem becomes when you're self-sabotaging, you're sabotaging others. You are sabotaging the ones that you love. When you continue and you keep yourself in a state of less than health, it rubs off on everybody that you know. When you do aberrant behaviors that are destructive, it's hard to change. But a lot of times, again, it just boils down to the comparison aspect.
Mm-hmm. Mariam, is there anything you want to add here? We've got a few more minutes left in this episode. Anything to add on this, self-sabotage and how we can overcome it?
Yes, absolutely. So just going off of from what Dr. Stuber was saying, a lot of the time, I do believe that it depends on, the certain culture or, whatever media you see. But I think no matter or regardless what gender you are, you have a responsibility and you should take it upon yourself to love yourself, and do not let media or culture defeat you or make you feel like you're not enough. And I think that is so important, because culture can be so hard on us, for men and women. But unfortunately, we see a lot of the supermodels out there, and it makes us just feel terrible about ourselves. It's like, oh, I don't look like that, but I should. And unfortunately, culture has become more and more so, and has just grown into that, and that's kind of the new norm. And I think we can change that. It doesn't have to be this way. I think self-love is so important, especially when it comes to these sort of things and making changes, positive changes for yourself and your health, because that'll not only affect you, most importantly, but it'll affect everyone else around you. When you're feeling positively about yourself, when you love yourself, it is so much easier to feel that way towards others, and kind of expand that, and spread it. And it is contagious. And I just think that we really, really need to stop with the sabotage of other people as well. Self-sabotage, it all starts from within, of course, but your environment has so much of an effect on how you feel about yourself, for a good reason, because there's social pressures, and there's just pressure to succeed and also to win. But Dr. Tindal and I have had this conversation. Not everyone else has to lose for you to win. We can all kind of win together. We can all feel good about ourselves. We don't have to put other people down to make ourselves, look and feel better. That is just not good. And so I think it's really important to just face ourselves and ask ourselves, what we want and what's going to make us happy, and to stop thinking about the negatives. Stop thinking about how we can't do this, or how we're fearful of changing, or fearful of failure. I think when you start with the positive attitude of, I don't have to climb this whole mountain by myself, and, every little positive or baby change, baby step will help, then that'll make it doable and digestible.
Yeah.
And
well, definitely you don't have to do it anymore. You got your New Life family team right here to help through it. Dr. Tindal, final word today on self-sabotage and maybe some ways quickly of how mindset can change with in regards to this cycle and breaking it.
Well, again, especially if we're working with us, working with us. You can see we have a great team. Plus we have a lot of experience dealing with this. We put together a weight loss website. The reason part of that is because people, find these excuses. So we're taking away the excuses of, I don't know what to eat. I don't know how to eat healthy. I don't know how to have a program. I don't know how to have a plan. I don't know how to exercise. Well, guess what? That's all on the website. Healthy recipes. The first month we tell you, 4 different programs, 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, vegetarian and vegan. So that way, the first month we tell you what to eat, so it gets you under control, so you can see that success. And then what we're trying to do is train you to plan meals, make develop techniques and habits of success. So hopefully what will happen, those habits and techniques of success will override. Plus we're here to help you through. So answer questions. If there's underlying health issues, we're there to address those with, our nutrition, lifestyle, dietary changes. And so that's kind of what we're all trying to do here is, again, we want you to really start to focus on your health, you being healthy and not comparing yourself to other people. And then again, we give you the encouragement, the tools, answer your questions. We're here to support, coach, and try to get you to where you need to be on that healthy. And our goal is to have you be healthy, not for a week or 2 months, but to be healthy for the rest of your life so you can have the life that you want to lead and enjoy your family, your kids. Look at these goals of, again, I kind of talk to people and I know we got to wrap it up, but look at the things. If I'm healthier and I can add years to my life, and guess what? I get to see my kids have grandbabies. I can see maybe my great grandchildren. I can go to their weddings. I can live that life. And it comes back to being about that family. How do I spend more time and enjoyment with my family, my friends, and the future family? Or do I want to die sooner because I want to have a donut or biscuits or gravy or things like that? And you lose all eyes. So if you put that in perspective.
Yeah, it's definitely worth breaking these cycles of fear and self-sabotage to have those goals, as Dr. Tindal just pointed out there at the end. Well, we definitely are here to answer your question. life@gmail.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that down at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions for our team, we'd love to have an episode where we address your question. We've had one of those already. We'd love to have some more where we're just addressing your specific questions on some of these topics that we've brought forth. So we've already talked about getting fear out of the way, getting self-sabotage broken, this cycle. Who knows what will come next in this series as we continue to talk about ways that you can change your life and pursue new life. So share the podcast with folks, make this online at the weight loss program that you've heard a little bit about today. When it's not just about weight loss, it's about changing your lifestyle for the better. new-lifeweightloss.com. and also newlifenaturopathic.com, a great place to go for resources as well. For the team, I am going to say goodbye for this week, but make sure you're sharing friends the podcast and go onto the YouTube channel, New Life Naturopathic. And we will look forward to seeing you next time in pursuit of new life.
Adios, Quincy.